Ciao everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Learn Italian with Songs. Specifically, today we are going to talk about Grazie ma no grazie by Willie Peyote. One of the final songs we are going to analyze to finish with Sanremo Music Festival, because after all this time, we are almost there. We almost finished the whole bunch of Sanremo 2025. So, grazie, ma no grazie. As usual, let's start with the translation of the title. The title literally translates as thanks, but no thanks. And it was released as a single, but also it will be part of the latest album by Willie Peyote, which is called Sulla riva del fiume, on the riverbank, which is a reference, which is referencing the very famous proverb about wait on the side of the river, on the riverbank, and you will see the body of your enemy passing by. However, the artist explained that the whole point of this album is a bit against this concept, the concept of the proverb, because in the album, in one of the tracks, he says, be careful, because if you keep waiting on the riverbank, at certain point, you might see your own body, like you might die first before your enemy. So, but it is also a reference to the river Po, because Willie Peyote is from Torino, which is my city. And in the middle of Torino, just like in other big cities like Florence or Rome, we have a river crossing. So this river is called Po, and it is the main river of the whole north of Italy. It is very important for us, and so he's referencing the river banks, which in Torino are very famous because they are usually the place where part of the nightlife happens. And this very specific riverbank you find in Torino is called Murazzi. This was to give some ideas, to give you an idea about the album this song belongs to. But what about the meaning? So, as usual, I got a statement by the artist, one of those released during the several press conferences happening during Sanremo Festival, and the artist described the meaning of the song as follows. Grazie ma no grazie, so thanks but no thanks, vaguely comes from the monologue of the, as in not the sentence, the whole song, of the 18th scene of the second act of Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand, explains the artist. The title is a game, a little play, and it is the ironic response to those phrases and situations that put us in difficulty, and from which we try to, dodge, to avoid the discussion. So we try to de-escalate a bit the situation. Going on such a big stage without saying anything for me would be like wasting an opportunity. I would not have been able to propose a piece without references to current events, especially at a time when it seems that everyone is fixed in their positions. I like to love the things, but highlighting that we should try to learn to communicate a little bit better, even between people who have ideas different from ours. So, in long story short, too long didn't read, this song is a political song. Why am I highlighting and stressing this point? Because one of the complaints concerning this year music festival was that oh my god, they censored everything, no politics. Okay, a little bit, a little trivia, a little information. In Italy, songs are often political. Okay, we have classic love songs and whatnot, yes, and those are the classic Sanremo songs. However, we have a big portion of Italian music that is about politics, okay? And these are probably some of the greatest and most culturally significant and important pieces of our musical history. So, when you hear people saying, oh my god, the songs are becoming too political, they shouldn't come to Sanremo, first of all, bullshit, because the fact of being politicized is fundamental for songs in Italian music, but also singers fought a lot against Sanremo because Sanremo was inviting and accepting mainly songs about love, so like chill, shutting off your brain and whatnot. But then with the time, musicians and singers and artists managed to arrive to Sanremo and even win Sanremo with political statements. Okay. Since last year, we had the whole issue with Gali and Argent Amico, who brought on the stage a very hot topic, that is the migrant crisis and everything that is happening in Palestine, okay? Many said, next year we won't have anything like that. Yes, of course we are not going to have Gali, but also because Gali is simply not interested in participating, probably not even D'Argent Amico, but in the end we had political statements in the songs. And you saw it because we almost finished to analyze the bunch from this year musical festival, from this year Sanremo, and you saw that it wasn't all happy things, nostalgia and breakups. We also had our good portion of political statements, and probably Grazie, ma no grazie was and still is one of the most political songs of Sanremo Music Festival 2025. So let's dive into the lyrics so I can show you what I mean. We start with an intro. He sings with very good chorus. For example, the live version was very nice. This is one of my favorite songs. And he says, ma che storia triste. But what a sad story. Avevo aspettative basse. I had low expectations. E sai già come finisce? And you already know how it ends. Visto da dove si parte, seeing, knowing where it starts, where we start from. So we are already starting with a little bit of sass. Then we have the first verse. Tu vorresti che la gente ti capisse. You wish people could understand you. La ami come se lei ricambiasse. You love her like she loved you back. E ci hai provato anche più volte dei jalis, and you tried even more times than the jalis, ma l'insistenza non è mai così di classe. But insistence is never that classy. Certi discorsi vanno presi con le pinze. Some speeches should be taken with a pinch of salt. Oppure provocano risate grasse. Or they cause belly laughters. E te l'aspetti, ma ogni volta ti stupisce. And you expect it, but every time it surprises you. Guarda le loro facce, come se non bastasse. Look at their faces as if that wasn't enough. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but no thanks. E partiamo col botto. We start in fifth gear. Why? Here, guys, it will be full of notes. So, the first section of the first verse is dedicated to all those guys who keep trying to flirt, to convince women to get with them or to give them a chance with a date and whatnot. And he's criticizing them because he's hinting at all those people saying, oh, nobody understands me, I am a poor person who nobody understands. It is a little bit the meme of the teenage boy, nobody understands them and whatnot, which is okay if you are a teenager. If you are 30 years old or more, it's problematic. And in fact, he keeps stacking to the criticism, you love her like she loved you back, but she clearly doesn't want you. And in fact, he says, and you tried even more times than the jalis. Who are the jalis? Okay, little explanation here. Jalis is an Italian music duo consisting of two spouses, Alessandra Drusian, or Drusian, I always have issues with accents, and Fabio Ricci. So, it's a couple of two married artists, and they are in this duo. But, why you tried even more times than Jalis? Because the Jalis, as a band, have a very peculiar history with Sanremo. So, in 1997, they participated in Sanremo Music Festival, so we are talking about 30 years ago, and won with Fiumi di Parole, Rivers of Words. But there was an issue. This victory turned out to be among the most debated in the history of the festival, for the controversial aftermath that followed. The song bore resemblance with Listen to Your Heart by Roxette, but no action were taken in this regard because plagiarism was non-existent. So what was the problem? When they won, many people said, oh, they won just because they plagiarized another famous song in English. However, this plagiarism was never proved because, of course, there are, for concerning plagiarism for songs, there are specific lawsuit process and whatnot, because you have to understand if it is sampling, if it is interpolation or plagiarism, okay? It is very complex and it requires several steps and several analyses. So what happened is that their guilt was never proven, like nothing ever happened, juridically speaking. However, since then, they applied to Sanremo Music Festival several times, since 1997. But every time, and they tried to participate again, like every year since then. So they've been trying for like 30 years. And every time they got rejected. And a little fun fact, due to this reference, they also make a cameo in the official video of Grazie ma no grazie. So that's why, like, he's saying, and you tried even more time than the jellies who are trying to go back, who've been trying to go back to Sanremo Music Festival for more than 30 years, like, just to stress how insistent certain people are. And then the final criticism, ma l'insistenza non è mai così di classe. But insistence is never that classy. As in, it is harassment. It is very ironic. It is never direct, this song. But, as we like to say, la tocca pianissimo. And then criticize the alpha males harassing you on social media in DMs. We go to another category of subjects. And these subjects, these people, are those writing on social media and basically, long story short, bullshitting around. Here we have also some interesting things. Here, discorsi, I translated it as speeches, but it would mean like statements, argument, topics, like as in things people say. Okay, not only on social media, by the way, also on television, like public statements, okay? Prendere con le pinze. Prendere con le pinze is an Italian idiom that literally translates as taking with pliers, okay? So, for example, the pliers you use to take hot things from the oven, okay, to not get burned. So, I translated it as to take with a pinch of salt, because the idea is that when you say in Italian, prendilo con le pinze, so literally take it with the pliers, it means treat it, take it, listen to it with due caution, okay? So, like, don't take what I'm saying too seriously, or don't take what they are saying too seriously. And in fact, he's saying, if you take what some people say too seriously, it is just ridiculous. Like, it is like pagliacciometro to the stars. And another little thing about Italian idioms, in Italian we say risate grasse, which literally means fat laughters, because it is plural. And it is what in English you could call belly laughter, okay? Or heartily laughter, but in Italian it is, the nuance is neutral to negative. It's like, it is really ridiculous, okay? Something is ridiculous. And then he says, knowing the type of people saying these things, because here probably he's heavily hinting at what certain politicians say. We are plenty of politicians saying very stupid things. It is embarrassing. And he's kind of saying, like, you know the person, like, you know the persona. You know that they are going to say stupid things, but they always manage to reach certain levels of stupidity that they surprise you. You're like, damn, like, I had low expectations, but goddamn, like he is saying in the intro. And then look at their faces, because in Italian, when someone has a bronze face, we say faccia da culo. or faccia da schiaffi, which is like a face so stupid that it makes you it makes you want to slap it, okay? And then grazie, ma no grazie, thanks, but no thanks. He's saying thanks, but no thanks to the toxic behaviors online by certain people that are very insistent, to all the stupid statements from people that actually should either be more serious or shut the fuck up. And so, grazie, ma no grazie. Then we have a bridge. Tanto fanno finta, ma lo sanno. Anyway, they pretend, but they know it. Like, what do they know? Più è profondo e meno paga quasi sempre. The deeper it is, the less it pays, like the less it is convenient, almost always. Meglio stare in superficie, salvagente. Better to stay on the surface, implied like a life jacket. Ok? Salvagente in Italian can be the jacket, but also I don't remember, the floating donut you put in the water, basically. And here is like, they pretend to not know it, but they actually know that the most superficial they act, the better it is. And here he's clearly criticizing all the populist statements, behavior, and whatnot, because of course they don't solve anything. But being populist is a very easy move to get consent, mainly when your target is a specific portion of the population that is struggling a lot, doesn't have high education, doesn't have access to high education, and thus it is easier to manipulate. Le risposte che ti danno, the answers they give you, sembran fatte con lo stampo, seem to be made with a mold, as in they are all the same. Quindi metterò le mani avanti, so I'll put my hands forward, 2 passi indietro, ogni passo avanti, 2 steps back for every step forward. So here is like the answer that these personas give you are always the same, usually are cliché, very banal things, very simple things. And then he says, metterò le mani avanti. Now, mettere le mani avanti is an Italian idiom that literally means to put my hands, your hands forward. Because it means to clarify the terms of a question, so usually to make a premise to clarify something, to avoid future misunderstanding or misinterpretations, like to protect you, okay? And it refers to the action of when you fall and you put your hands forward to not hurt yourself too much. And of course, 2 passi indietro, ogni passo avanti, 2 step back, every step forward, it means that you are basically going back, like instead of evolving and improving, you are getting worse and worse, because if for each step you do for each step forward you do 2 steps back, in the end you go back. Then we have the chorus, and the chorus is a group of a list of examples to things the artist says: grazie ma no grazie, thanks but no thanks. Dovresti andare a lavorare, e non farti manganellare nelle piazze. You should go to work and not get beaten up in the squares. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but no thanks. E questa gente non fa un cazzo, li mantengo tutti io con le mie tasse. And these people don't do shit, I support them all with my taxes. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but no thanks. Dovresti dare meno ascolto ai sentimenti, you should listen less to your feelings, che non sono mai dei buoni investimenti, which are never good investments. Dovremmo organizzare una rimpatriata, tipo una cena di classe. We should organize a reunion like a class dinner. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but no thanks. And then he repeats several times with the chorus, grazie ma no grazie, thanks but no thanks, and ends with davvero grazie ma, really thanks but. And so like, what are all those things? What are they referring to? First, little note on the start, manganellare. Manganellare is a verb in Italian coming from the noun manganello. Manganello is the so-called blackjack, so the stick the police has to beat people. And in fact, the whole phrase, the whole sentence, refers to a problem that is discussed nowadays in Italy, where people manifesting and protesting in the squares, like going to protest, are beaten very often and not very professionally, and when is not really necessary, by the police. So normally in a democratic and balanced country, you should support people protesting, because protesting is, first of all, a fundamental right and one of the greatest expression of democracy. So, as people, we should encourage this expression and manifestation of dissent, because this is the core of democracy. And yet, due to populism spreading in Italy, we have many people, boomers, like, let's say, belonging to specific generations, to specific demographics, complaining that young people, because usually the one getting beaten are students, and we had very serious cases where even students from high school, we are talking about kids, got beaten by the police. Like, you understand that there is an issue where when a police officer with the whole protection, the shields and whatnot, goes and beat basically children with no weapons, because this is what happened, because they are manifesting, sending them to the hospital. It happened with it happened last year after the last Sanremo in 2024, and it was like a source of great discussion, because normally everyone should condemn such an act, because it shouldn't be tolerated. It's definitely not okay, to say the least. But many people said, well, it's your fault if you got beaten up while you were protesting, because it would be much better if you go to work and do something useful instead of going and protesting. Of course, this is complete bullshit. It is a very problematic statement. And in fact, the artist says grazie, ma no grazie. Another case. E questa gente non fa un cazzo, li mantengo tutti io con le mie tasse. Who are these people not doing shit supported by my taxes? Fun fact, in Italy we have many people not paying taxes. We have a serious issues with the tax evasion. So usually many people saying this sentence are not even paying the taxes because they are evading them. A little note on the side by a jurist who read some stats. And but who is this sentence reference to? Like, who are these people support and who don't do shit? Vulnerable categories of society. Migrants, people having issues finding jobs, the students going to protest in the streets. So populismo a secchiate. And again, grazie, ma no grazie. And then all those people saying, oh, real men should not listen too much to feelings, because if you are a more if you are a person with more sensibility, like listening to emotions and giving value to emotions, listening to them, you are weak. And of course, to that as well, this artist says, grazie, ma no grazie. Toxic. And then there is one last that is less serious, but it is more ironic, a joke, because in Italy there is this tradition of organizing class reunions. So you basically organize with your ex-school class members from high school or middle school, and you do these cene di classe, so class dinners. So why many people don't like them? Because these things are nice in very few cases, and those very few cases is if you still have friends among your ex-classmates, or that's it. Like, in order to be a nice event, you need to have a good relationship with your ex-classmates. For example, my father does it every now and then because he used to be friend, and he's still friends with his colleagues, his classmates, ex-classmates. So he's always happy to do these things. My father is the exception. The majority of people hate each other guts like no tomorrow in high school and middle school, because you are a teenager and you are also a piece of shit. So it is a bit physiological. For example, in my case, we had some issues in middle school. I was asked to participate in a class dinner 2 times in my life. One was at the end of high school, and my middle school classmates, some of them, of course not everyone, asked to do a class reunion for a dinner to tell each other the final score they got in high school, which is one of the most stupid things I ever seen in my life, because what happened that some of them attended very easy schools, because like in everywhere in the world you have more difficult schools for what you study and the standards of the school, and of course you have high schools where you don't study much and you get very high grades. And of course, those who were, because also I have to mention this. In Italy, there is a big issue with infantilizations in school. Infantilization is the practice to treat people like children, build a system that makes them feel okay with this thing, so they are easier to control, because of course a child is easier to manipulate. And one of these techniques is convincing students that their value is directly proportional to their grades. Of course, this is a very toxic mentality, a very toxic behavior. Pedagogically speaking, Alex can confirm it is not good, just not good. Mainly because in Italy, like I guess in the rest of the world, we have the issue of professors targeting, teachers targeting some students and lowering their grades on purpose because they bully them. Simple as. And it is like, in the end, if you're bullied by a teacher, it is very hard to have some justice, because the best thing you can do is to change class, if not school. But in the end, of course, it's the student who's going to get a disadvantage. It is very hard to get teachers fired in Italy. So what happened is that, of course, many people who dedicated their whole life to getting scores, very high grades, also attending easier schools, because like the people who proposed the class dinner were, of course, from schools where getting high grades was very easy, and then they wanted to brag about their grades. Of course, a normal person would cringe, like I did, very hard. Also because it is always funny to see people bragging about their grades, and ironically they do it not being able to do much like Italian-wise. So like it is always funny to see people bragging about their culture and then not being able to conjugate verbs properly, for example. But that said, the issue is that those who organize those class dinners usually do it to brag about something, to brag about the fact they had a very specific job, the fact that they are married, the fact they have children and whatnot. Because, you know, like the cheap life goals, so like the job, the wage, the marriage, the children, usually those people also ends up being very sad people, bragging about marriages who are not going well, bragging about having children but they are actually exhausted, bragging about jobs they got in arguable ways or that are actually shitty jobs and whatnot. So it is always that is something that always makes people cringe, or like it is a way for people to just invade your privacy. Because, for example, I, on my personal social media, don't say much about my life. So, for example, people who know me and they follow me on my social media don't actually know what I'm doing with my life. But one thing for sure, I am so very happy I went to live very far away from Italy, because whenever someone asks, oh, let's do a class reunion, I'm like, sorry guys, I live 1,000 kilometers away. Have fun without me. Un bacio. The other time was like at certain point someone asked after by the way, un bacio is written with one C. And the other time it was from my high school classmates, of course, due to several issues, not because they were bad people, but because we were in a bad situation. Everyone was pretty much a piece of shit. So we were kind of hating each other guts in big groups wise. And like someone at certain point proposed this class reunion, and I just pretended to be dead. Like basically they added me to a WhatsApp group. I ran away. They added me again. So I just muted everything, remained silent, and used the opossum technique of I'm going to pretend I'm dead. The great technique, trust me. And in fact, and these were things you can, like the artist says, grazie, ma no grazie. So, verse 2. What other things are big no-nos to which we say grazie, ma no grazie? C'è chi non sa più come scrivere. There are those who no longer know how to write. Non sa come parlare. Those who no longer know how to speak. Non sa a quali parole deve mettere, ad esempio, l'asterisco al plurale. Those who no longer know which words they should put, for example, an asterisk in the plural. C'è chi non sa più come ridere. There are those who no longer know how to laugh. Non sa come scherzare. Those who no longer know how to joke. E vuole la tradizione se la confusione qua è generale. And want the tradition if the confusion here is general. E oggi va così, chissà domani. Today it goes like this, who knows tomorrow. Domani, domani, domani. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Magari riesco a capire gli esseri umani. Maybe I can understand human beings. Chi bacia sulla bocca i propri figli. Those who kiss their children on the mouth. E c'è chi bacia sulla bocca i propri cani. And there are those who kiss their dogs on the mouth. E quanto va di moda il vittimismo, and how fashionable is victim mentality, di chi attacca ma dice che si difende, of those who attack but saying they defend themselves. C'è chi dice non si può più dire niente. There are those who say you can't say anything anymore. Poi invece parla sempre. But then they always talk. Ma almeno sii coerente. But at least be consistent. Almeno per stavolta. At least for this time. Che c'è ancora chi ti dà corda, because there are still those who listen to you, e c'è chi ha perso la memoria e vorrebbe che tornasse, and there are those who have lost their memory and would like him to return, come se non bastasse, and as if this wasn't enough. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but no thanks. The second verse is the joy of my life. So, let's start from the first part. There are those who no longer know how to write, how to speak, to which word they should add the asterisk in the plural. Explanation. Okay, there is a big debate in Italian concerning the fact that Italian has genders. Now, I often explain that, grammatically speaking, Italian has two genders, masculine and feminine, because despite coming from Latin, we lost the neutral. What is the problem? The problem is that there is a part of the queer community who identifies as non-binary, right? But there is also another problem. As I explained in other circumstances, since we have only two genders, there is an issue when we talk for the plural to people. Why? Because we have to choose between the masculine and the feminine. So, for example, if I have a group of professors, if there is at least one man in the group, I have to say professori, which is the plural of professore, masculine, and not professoresse, which is the plural of the feminine. Why? Because of a mechanism that is called, for example, it has several names, but one of the names is maschile sovraesteso, because we use the masculine form as if it was a neutral form, so comprehending both masculine and feminine. Now, what are the problems with the fact of having two genders? Is that, as I was explaining, it is hard to address non-binary people, and it is hard to be inclusive because when in groups there is at least a man, the masculine takes the priority, and the whole group goes for the masculine. And here, for example, it is a problem of sexism. So the two grammatical genders pose a problem for non-binary nuance and problems related for sexism. People and linguists propose several solutions. Some propose to use the femminile sovraesteso, so basically start using as a group, when in group of people, if there is at least one feminine element, to use the feminine, a little bit to balance all the years where we used the maschile sovraesteso, so the priority given to the masculine gender. Now, what is the problem? That this doesn't solve the issue. It just like flips it on the other side. And also, this solution doesn't answer the question of how do we deal with non-binary people. This is a problem that, for example, is not that hard to deal with in English, because English generally is a neutral language. So, for example, if I want to say, dear students, here there's a communication for you, who are the students? The males, females, and everything in between, because student is a gender. Okay. In Italian this is a problem, because what do I say? Cari studenti, but then I leave out the studentesse, the feminine. What do I say? Cari studenti e care studentesse? But then I have the problem, the binary problem. I have a very long formula. So, another solution was to create neutral declination, neutral suffixes. For example, in Italian we have studente, masculine, studentessa, feminine. We take the so-called desinenza, so the final part of the word that indicates the gender of the word, the grammatical gender of the word, I carry it, and instead I put another desinenza that is supposed to be neutral. Problem: this thing doesn't exist in Italian, so we have to invent it. And even in this case, there are several propositions for this neutral desinenza, this neutral ending. One of them is the asterisk. So, instead of putting studenti e studentesse, I put the root student and an asterisk at the end where I would put e of studente or esse from studentesse. This solution, also the asterisk is just the most common way. There are certain people, for example, putting the at symbol, the hash of the hashtag, but like basically symbols instead of letters, just to signal that the ending of the word needs to be neutral. What is the problem? This can work writing. It still has issues because, for example, it was criticized because this is not actually inclusive, because it could be inclusive for non-binary or to avoid sexism, but it makes the text less accessible for people with reading difficulties. It is a problem because you can call it inclusive because you, instead of being sexist, you are being ableist because you put in difficulty people with reading issues. Also, like, for example, people who have issues with sight. That's a problem. The other problem is that these symbols, so the asterisk, the at, the hash, cannot be read. How do I read student with the asterisk? Student? Do I just read the root and I just skip the desinence? It is very hard to read and to pronounce and to talk this way because it kills the normal rhythm and smoothness of Italian language. Due to this, after another proposition came from linguists. One is the schwa, which is a letter from the phonetic alphabet, which is the E, so the E, upside down. This is a letter, a sound, because it's not a letter, it is a sound. And for example, again, we using the schwa, we have issues with readability, but we also have issues with, like with the asterisk, for the pronunciation. Why? Because this sound got lost in Italian. We don't have it anymore. It stayed in certain dialects, for example, mine, Piemontese, or Napoletano. These dialects have this sound, but not all dialects have it. And in fact, Italian doesn't have it. Exactly, Gaso. Exactly that letter, which is not a letter, it is a sound. Exactly that sound. What is the problem? That, for example, first of all, it is not a letter. If we really want to be proper, we should, for example, take the A with the specific accent that we find in Romanian. Romanian is a Neo-Latin language. It has that sound. It is used in the language, and it is represented by an A with a specific accent. I don't know how to do it on the keyboard because I don't have it, and I don't know the ASCII code, but I don't know if Alex can grace us with the A col cappellino in Romanian. Can you write it? The sound, which would be the schwa. The problem is that, for example, for that one, for example, Romanian has it. Italian does not. It should mean that we should take a letter, for example, from the Romanian alphabet, or from French, because, for example, French has it as well, and it should be the sound E, for example, E, the water, or other, I know that other, probably other Slavic languages have it as well, but it is a sound that exists in other languages. It is a sound that exists in some dialects in Italy. In Italian it doesn't exist, so we should introduce it. And so instead of saying, for example, studenti and studentesse, I would say studente. Another example, another possible solution that was proposed is to put the U. For example, I prefer it because sometimes the sound. I speak French. I'm learning Romanian, so technically I know how to make that sound. It is also in my dialect, but I have issues pronouncing it, inserting it in Italian. For example, instead of saying benvenuti a tutti, I should say benvenute a tutte. Sounds Napolitan, sounds napoletano? Because in napoletano, you would use that sound. So, another example, as I was saying, is the U. So, using U sound as a neutral desinenza. So, instead of saying benvenuti a tutti e benvenute a tutte, I would say benvenuto a tutto. Easier to pronounce, a bit hard to get used to, because in the end the issue is getting used to it when you talk. Now, not being fully cisgender myself, if I have to be honest, I actually tend to use neutral ways to express myself. And the trick I use is not the asterisk, is not the schwa, is not the U. It is simply using the collective nouns, or using periphrases to describe a collectivity. So, for example, you notice that I say ciao everyone. I don't say welcome, because ciao, being a greeting, is genderless. Instead of saying messaggio per gli studenti e le studentesse. In high school, I was saying messaggio per la classe. When I was in groups, in study groups, instead of saying egregi colleghi e gentili colleghe, a tutto il gruppo. Instead of saying ai professori e alle professoresse, al corpo insegnante. I was simply using collective nouns that have a gender, but the gender is relevant only grammatically speaking. For example, if I have to call someone dear to me, I don't call them cara or caro, which would be like dear, okay? I call them stella, star, amore, love, because I simply use the gender of the word. But per se, the expression of affection, it is genderless. Now, this is not the solution, because of course in certain cases it is complicated. For example, if I have to welcome someone, instead of saying benvenuti e benvenute, I would say vi do il mio benvenuto. Like, I give you my welcome. It is a bit long, I agree. But I prefer to use the asterisk, because I really care about reading accessibility. And using the asterisk is not accessible at all. Same with the schwa, same with the you. It is a matter of priority. Do you want to talk more to the queer community or respect people with reading disabilities or reading issues? It is a personal choice. I usually give priority to people with reading issues because I give priority to readability. It is a choice. There is no right answer. Now, talking about right answer, and just to put in perspective how little stirring pot bitches some journalists are, in one of the press conferences, one of the journalists, and I put it in the description if you want to see that portion of the press conference, a journalist tells Willie Peyote, we listened to your song and we clearly know what your position is about the asterisk. Don't you think, how do you think this problem should be solved? And I love that he said, look, I think I have to explain it again because I don't think that was clear. I am not against the asterisk. I am against people who complain about the asterisk and then they cannot even conjugate properly the verbs according to the correct tenses. And in fact, he says something like, it is ridiculous to be concerned about the asterisk when you cannot even use the subjunctive properly in Italian. And I was like, 10 out of 10. Exactly what I'm thinking. Because in the end, the whole song is not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about people getting stuck into certain ideals on certain sides and doing everything to say you are with me or you are against me. So you are pro or against the asterisk, you are pro or against the protest, you are pro, like, I understand. We have an issue with polarization of opinions, which is fostered by how algorithms on internet work, because on social media, if you create a polarizing content, the algorithm boosts you. Because when you create a polarizing content, it generates more interactions. Since the aim of the algorithm is to generate as many interactions as possible, of course, the algorithms learned that polarizing content generates more interactions, and thus they try to foster the type of interactions. Despite the poor quality and negative social effects this type of incentive creates, because of course a polarized society is a society that is going to have a hard time, because we are human beings. Our whole premise of existence is coexistence, and in the moment we start to divide ourselves and close ourselves into groups, we doom ourselves. Because if we keep putting each other one against the other, we'll end up in a conflictual situation. So the whole point of the song is not criticizing right, left, this group, that group, this or that, this is better, has the moral high ground. No. Nobody has the moral high ground. We are all fucked up. We are all fucking up big time. And the whole problem is this polarization and this focus on me against you, we against them. Okay? Because it is the tribal human core of closing each other into groups, okay, into tribes. The problem is that in order to evolve, we should be able to overcome this mentality, just like we overcame the egoistic mentality, me against the others. So sacrificing a bit of yourself to give to the group, because if I do that, on the long term, I'm going to get a benefit, I'm going to get advantages, because if I give to the group will protect me. If I give to the group will give back. Then we, as a society organized in several groups, the next step of evolution would be to reject the idea of groups, not of groups in itself, because it is important for us to belong to things, but overcome the idea of the member of the other group is an enemy. Sadly, due to the social situation we are finding ourselves in, this is actually a problem, because we are going back, we are not evolving. And the whole song is a bit about this problem. The asterisk is an example of this problem. It is a problem of those like, oh, the asterisk is the worst thing, like it is the battle to fight against, which is bullshit. The asterisk is a solution, weak or not, not the best, whatever, but it is a proposal of a solution to a problem. The problem is not about the problem is about denying the problem, and not the problem is not the possible solution. How do you solve the problem? By testing several solutions. Doesn't work, you propose another one. Doesn't work, you try with another one. But the whole point is that the problem stays. And to solve it, you have to try something. You can't just hope it disappears like certain people do. And of course, many people complaining about the asterisk, because now I'm taking the asterisk because this is the example of the song. They actually use it to hide major problems. It is a bit indicating, like creating the enemy, so you don't have to deal with the actual problems. The asterisk even if it doesn't work, is not the problem. And in fact, after he says, there are those who no longer know how to laugh, how to joke, and want the tradition if the confusion is general. Now, this is probably a reference to the fact that many politicians in Italy are taking the bad behavior of bringing to court comedians. If you, as a politician, bring to court a politician for defamation just to, how can I say, give the, impose political pressure because you don't want satire, this is very problematic. And in fact, just like the thing of fighting against protest, fighting against the right to comedy and satire, it is a big blow to democracy. And connecting to this point as well, then he says, oh, there are those who kiss their children on the mouth and those who kiss their dogs, because another big debate in Italy, because it's hygienic, it is okay to kiss on the mouth your animals, your children. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I don't like it, but it is what it is. And then connecting this part and this part, we have again the attack to the same category. And how fashionable is the victim mentality of those who attack but saying they defend themselves. And of course, this is a clear reference mainly to some politicians from the government, because there is no, like, it is illogic and it is irrational, incoherent to portray yourself as the victim if you are the one governing the country, because you are by definition the powerful, okay? You are the ones ruling over the country. So, of course, how is it possible you are the victim when you are literally the most powerful figure, in the most powerful position in the whole country? Doesn't make sense. It is like being... I have the turtles going crazy. It is the whole point of being strong with the weak. Okay, so basically being a bully. And then we have the three lines that are my absolute favorite of this song. There are those who say you can say anything anymore, but then they always talk. At least be consistent. C'è chi dice non si può più dire niente, poi invece parla sempre, ma almeno sii coerente. And here, of course, another blow to the far right, because they are the first one saying, oh, we can't say anymore, the politically correct, the woke culture and whatnot, and then they are always shit-talking whatever. Then an interesting idiom, dare corda, it means to encourage, to listen to someone, to agree with someone. So he's basically saying, at least this time, be serious, do your job properly, take responsibility, act appropriately considering the position you are occupying. Because there are people listening to you and encouraging you and supporting you. And then we have a bit cryptic, a line that is a bit cryptic, but for many Italians it is actually very clear what he's saying here. E c'è chi ha perso la memoria e vorrebbe che tornasse. And there are those who have lost their memory and would like him to return. Who is him? Mussolini, Benito Mussolini, founder and leader of the fascist movement. And then grazie, ma no grazie. Then we have again the chorus. Dovresti andare a lavorare e non farti manganellare nelle piazze. You should go to work and not get beaten up in the squares. Grazie, ma no grazie. E questa gente non fa un cazzo, li mantengo tutti io con le mie tasse. And these people don't do shit, I support them all with my taxes. Grazie, ma no grazie. Dovresti dare meno ascolto ai sentimenti, you should listen less to feelings, che non sono mai dei buoni investimenti. Which are never good investments. Dovremmo organizzare una rimpatriata, tipo una cena di classe, we should organize a reunion like a class dinner, grazie, ma no grazie. And then again, repeated several times, grazie, ma no grazie. And then, really, thanks, but no, davvero grazie, ma no, which is like one word more than the first chorus, because in the first chorus it was davvero grazie, ma, really, thanks, but, and now we have a no, a no. Then we have another bridge, storia triste, sad story, aspettative basse, low expectations. C'è chi sparisce, there are those or some disappear, finché si calmano le acque, until the waters calm down. Ma che storia triste, but what a sad story. C'è chi annuisce, some, there are those who nod, fra le frasi fatte, among the cliché, vince chi stupisce sempre a mani basse. The one who always surprises, hands down, wins. Grazie, ma no grazie. Thanks, but not thanks, but no thanks. Now, again, there are those who fuck up big time and then disappear until the waters calm down. Il calmarsi delle acque, si calmano le acque, is an Italian idiom that means to wait for the situation to calm down, to become quiet, so like to wait for a bad situation to pass. So like it refers to those who fuck up and then they go quiet, they go silent for a bit until everything goes back, because people have a very short memory. Then frasi fatte translated as cliché, literally is it means set phrases. And then another idiom that is a mani basse, which is exactly like in English, hands down, so very easily without a discussion. And in fact, the phrase is those who win are those who surprise always easily. So those winning easily are those who surprise. Grazie, ma no grazie, thanks, but no thanks. And then we end the song with an outro, which is a repetition of the final part of the chorus, so a repetition of grazie ma no grazie, thanks but no thanks, with finally the complete sentence that we saw at the end of the chorus, which is davvero grazie ma no grazie, really thanks but no thanks. And that was the lyrics of Grazie ma no grazie. And I didn't finish yet because my rant continues. Where are my rant? These are like the gossip glasses and the rant glasses. So, like I can see. Okay, sorry. Okay, trivia. He had beautiful chorus on the stage with him, but also he had with him a comedian that I personally love. the comedian appearing both in the official video clip and also in the live exhibition at Sanremo Music Festival is Luca Ravenna. There was also a whole meme and thing about Luca Ravenna, because what happens is that during the exhibition of Willie Peyote, there is the chorus behind him. He has two chorists behind him while performing on the stage, and then in the theater you have in front of him the orchestra, and then on the side, on the top, next to the orchestra, you have the other chorist. Now, among the chorists on the side, at certain point during the first exhibition, the cameraman does a zoom in on the side chorus, and for a split second, we see Luca Ravenna saying no in one of the grazie, ma no grazie. And the point is that it was just for a split second, so everyone was like, what? Was that Luca Ravenna? Is this like a collective hallucination? And then it came out that Willie Peyote and Luca Ravenna are friends. Luca Ravenna really wanted to participate in an exhibition of Sanremo Music Festival, and so Willie Peyote invited him. Now, actually, I said pretty much everything concerning the lyrics, because the whole point was to give context to the lyrics. But of course, like if you have anything to ask or to say, like, I'm listening. But what I wanted to say is that, first of all, this ranked higher than I expected, because it ranked, how to check, it ranked 16th, so already the thing that it was in top 20, I was like, damn. But also, like, my little rant about there is no politics in this Sanremo Music Festival, they're all fascist. Now, after what happened last year with Gali and Dargen Amico, many people said, oh, with this government now, the direction of the festival is going to change, and we won't have any, like, they will be all like pro-government, this Sanremo will be so far right. Posers. You are a fucking bunch of posers who actually don't give a shit about what happens in the world. You just give a shit about being trendy and having the big scene like Galing saying stop al genocidio on the stage. You don't give a shit about anything. You don't give a shit about what Gali had to say or Dargen D'Amico had to say. You just want the fucking shorts, reels, TikToks to publish so you can feel morally superior to the rest of the world, because this is the fucking bitter truth. A fucking bunch of posers. This is what you are. Because, as I said, in this Sanremo, there were political statements. This whole song is a whole political statement. And I swear to fucking God, nobody, and I say nobody, talked about this song. During Sanremo Music Festival, this song was so much under the radar that I was baffled. I was shocked, because after months since Carlo Conti was announced as the new host of Sanremo Music Festival, people hanno sfracellato, sbrindellato i coglioni a tutti saying, oh my god, this festival is going to be far right, we won't have political statements. They complain and complain and complain, and then when this song arrived criticizing exactly what the government was doing to the students, to the people, criticizing basically everyone who voted for the fucking government we have right now in Italy. After all of this, nobody say anything. Why? Because, I don't know, Willie Peyote wasn't as enough TikTok as Gali, but you can't always rely on Gali doing the whole fucking job. Also, because you can see all this bunch of fucking posers when last year Gali did what he did, standing ovation for Gali, but also Dargen D'Amico tried to speak every goddamn night during Sanremo Music Festival. Did he receive the same attention? No, because he wasn't Gali. Simple as. So, all the people who were complaining, posers, fake, pitiful. Like, we had Fedez with Battito, who, despite all the complaints, was talking also about the abuse of substances, of the whole struggle of mental illnesses, which is a problem that always goes under the radar. Grazie Mano Grazie was a big whole critique to everything that the government is doing, and nobody say anything. We had, now like, I don't remember the all the songs, but also what happened that like really made me mad is that at certain point, Carlo Conti, the host of Sanremo Music Festival 2025 edition, in one of the press conferences said, I didn't receive any big political song, okay? Nothing that explicit as impactful like, for example, what Gali did last year. But again, Gali probably did what he wanted to do last year. This year, probably Sanremo is not the scene he wanted to associate with, and that's okay, and probably he didn't send anything. And Carlo Conti saying, don't expect anything like last year, like he couldn't do much if he didn't receive like the same pieces. It happened. It depends on the singer, on the singers, on the artist submitting the lyrics, the songs in general. And the Italian press twisted this statement into no politics allowed in Sanremo Music Festival 2025 edition. And in fact, in one of the interviews, Willie Peyote says, I had like my fans complaining because if you want something about Italian politics, you go on Willie Peyote's YouTube channel, Spotify, whatever. You pick a song and you just give it to me because there will always be something about politics. And in fact, his fan base, when they saw that he was going to Sanremo Music Festival and there was the whole Italian press saying, oh, no politics allowed on the stage this year, besides like the whole stupid portion of fan base saying, oh my god, you sold yourself, you are not the same, which like I would be quite sad about like having a fan base like that, because guys, ask me, like, do you really think as an artist who is focused on political statements in his song, like from from like one day to another is going to decide to just not be political anymore just to please Sanremo? Not even the benefit of the doubt? Pitiful, to be honest. So yeah, like he also had like his fan base complaining, and then they calmed down when he presented the song. But again, nobody talked about how political this song was, probably because it wasn't TikTok enough. And this is like making the pagliacciometro explode. Because it is not even about being a clown, it is about being the whole circus. For the level of clownery concentrated in this situation. So, that said, I hope you enjoyed this song, which is probably my favorite, surely one of the favorites of the festival. I really recommend listening to it. Willie Peyote is a rapper, so of course it might feel a bit fast, so it's not that easy to understand, but that's why you have me commenting on the lyrics. That said, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Let me know in the comments what you think about the song. That said, grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.